wanted to ask you about habits. I think that for me, I think that making art is something that you get more pleasure out of if you get better at it, right? And you get better at it because you do it more. But how do you keep doing it more? And that's something that I've kind of wrestled with throughout, which is, I think that the traditional ways of thinking about art are that it's, you set up a big canvas and you get a model and you go, and you take courses on the weekend and you buy all these art supplies. And for me, the key to making art into a habit has been to just put it into my life, to not make it into a big deal, to make it something that's possible, and that I don't need to spend a lot of time, I don't need to spend a lot of money, I don't need to have a lot of resources. It's just there, and it's like it works.
You don't need a special palette and this kind of
it's like if you want to join a gym, but the gym that you decide to join is like 10 miles from your house, you're never going to go there. But if it's next door, you're much more likely to go there. So to me, it's always been about that. But like, how do you get that habit? How do you, keep making yourself do it? I mean, you teach a lot of students who are starting out their art careers. Like, how does that work with them, and what do you do? And also in your own personal life, how do you do it?
It's funny, as you're talking, I'm thinking about a couple of things. First of all, the thing about the gym. So I joined a gym, and I went to this gym, and they said, well, with your membership, you get this free trainer, like one session with a trainer. And I said, okay, great. And I hung around and I watched all the trainers, and I looked for the one that was not saying, go for the pain, and was real gentle, and that was the one I picked. So I think the first thing about habit is it has to have some pleasure, right, to get you to do it. So obviously, people who are taking this class are people who find pleasure in drawing, and they're saying, but I want to do it every day so that I get better and so that it becomes part of my life. And the thing I say to students is, art is not a thing you do. Art is a lifestyle. And you say, I want that life of being an artist. And the life of being an artist is not, to me, it's not what you were saying, this special, you go out and you do the painting and you do the thing. And it isn't either the idea of the crazy artist who's just so outside of the box. The truth is, the artists that I know, and I can say this for myself too, they're people who are really committed to doing their work. And they're actually, in that sense, they're kind of boring. They get up every day and they draw and they work at it. Habit is just a thing that you have decided is important to you, and you make time for it every day. And in the beginning, the first parts of developing a habit, you have to remind yourself. And some days you might not. And I was just having this conversation with a student the other day. Don't decide to do everything. She's got this project that she's working on, and she's always telling me, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And she heaps this giant mountain of accomplishment that she must do if she's going to be an artist. And I said, well, if you just set aside a little space in your house and a half hour, an hour every day and do a little bit on it, you're going to accomplish a lot more, and don't think about the end result. Think about the result right now. I'm doing this right now, and I'm going to enjoy it. And the reward comes later. It's like when you're a kid and your mom marks that spot on the wall to see how tall you are, and then you go back the next day and you're like, oh, I'm still the same height, right? But if you forget about it and you're just playing and you're doing your thing, you grow, and then suddenly that mark is up here, and then it's up here.
Right, but if you keep measuring yourself against it, you're just going to get frustrated.
Right, because you're not going to see any growth, because growth growth takes its own time, and you kind of need to not worry about the end result. The end result is the reward, but the doing it every day is the joy of it.
I think it's like what we've been talking about exercise, in terms of exercise as a habit, and I think it's sort of a similar thing where you have to say not I want to win a marathon, or not even I want to run a marathon, but just I like to run.
Right, exactly.
But I think the problem is a lot of times, I don't particularly like to run, so the fact that I have
I'm with you there.
So there's that, but I think with drawing, it's when you start out, one of the things that is the biggest obstacle in doing the habit is your own judgment of what you've done.
Oh, yeah.
So you do a drawing and you say, this sucks, I suck, I can't do this. And so there isn't an incentive to keep going because you say, well, every time I do this, it makes me feel bad, actually, not feel good.
Right.
So it's like, how can you either suspend judgment or how can you give yourself milestones that are more reasonable? So you go, you know what, let me look at this drawing I did a week ago and see how I've progressed maybe.
Right. Well, that's why I'm excited about this class, because I think this class does give you those milestones, because it's
a drawing a day.
A drawing a day, and each day we talk about this small aspect of drawing that actually is a big aspect of drawing, and it works so that every day you add a little piece to this puzzle of drawing, and by the time you're done, you can look back through your sketchbook and see what you've learned. But if you're looking for that in the beginning, I mean, it's very Zen, right? I mean, if you're looking for that end, then you're looking at the end and you're missing what's here right now. And I know it can be difficult when you judge it, when you look and you go, oh, it's no good. But if you can just try to suspend the judgment and try to enjoy it for its own sake, that's when the magic happens.
I think there's also rules that you can set up for yourself where you say, this just isn't open for discussion.
Right, exactly.
So like to me, a drawing a day is like, it's a drawing a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good drawing a day. It's a drawing a day, right?
Yeah,
so if you say, you know what, and that's why, like, I wrote this book, Art Before Breakfast, because I thought, when you first wake up in the morning, your critical faculties aren't that strong, so you're kind of vulnerable, so you can say, you're going to do a drawing before breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, there's no discussion, and the part of you that wants to argue is still kind of semi-asleep.
Right.
But I think it's also like, if you do something that you really want to do but you're struggling with, do it first.
Yes.
Do the important things first, and then the rest of the day you feel like you accomplished something.
Yeah.
But I think if you say, I'll wait till I come home from work and I've had a glass of wine, and no, because then there's 50 other things that'll come my way, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you start out by saying, and that's what I'm hoping with the drawing day, it's like, here's an email that's going to show up in your mailbox before you wake up.
I love that.
You check your email, it says, oh, I have to do this drawing a day.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'll say, well, I'm going to watch the video, and I'm going to watch your video, I'm going to see you doing it, and I'm going to say, all right, that seems doable.
Yes.
And so I think it's almost like set your alarm clock half an hour early for this month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like you would if you were going to go running every day. Just say, you know what, I'm getting up half an hour early, I'm going to do this.
And I'm going to do it.
And then by the time, it takes 30 days to make a habit, they say, or 60 days, there's different numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you do that, then you will have started to have gotten that reward.
Yeah.
Enough so that after 30 days, when you look back and you say, man, look at all the stuff I did, and look at the first drawing, and look at the one I just did, and look at all the different things I experimented with, and how many ways I surprised myself, and how many adventures I had. And I think even like writing down in your sketchbook, here's how I felt today.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually better than I thought, or I would like to do this again and maybe approach it differently.
Right.
I think having that, and again, saying to yourself, my objective isn't to necessarily have done an amazing drawing by the end of the month, but it's to train myself and rewire my brain in a way so that I can do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I love the idea of art before breakfast. I think that's such a great concept, because you really do. And also, in the morning before you give up all your energy, it takes a lot of energy to do something every day, especially if it's got all this judgment potentially attached to it and all this kind of, but if you do it first, you have all the reserves ready to go. And also, if you're sleepwalking through it, it's even better, because your brain is still learning. It's like, you're still building up ideas, and
you could come back to it later in the day. If you did a drawing in the morning and you didn't like it, have a look at it later in the afternoon. Maybe you want to do it again, or maybe you'll say, you know what, it was better than I thought, or maybe you'll say, I'll do better tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. I think the point isn't to decide whether each drawing is a good drawing. It's just to give yourself credit. Like they say in AA, it's like one day at a time.
Yeah.
Don't drink today. Do draw today.
Do draw today. Yeah. Just do it today. Don't worry about tomorrow.
Just check that and also be inflexible with yourself.
Yes.
And say, you know what? There is no excuse. It's not if I'm tired, if I'm sick, if I'm busy. There is no excuse. I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit. And I think it's like New Year's resolutions. Most people just give them up so quickly, and I think, but part of it is because you set yourself too high a bar, and you don't also have help in accomplishing it.
That's
right?
true.
And I think that this class is going to give you that help by saying, here's a reminder, here's somebody else who's doing it, here are other people who are doing
Exactly.
it. And do you really want to do it for 9 days and not
And
do
then
it for
quit?
10 days?
No.
You want to
No.
you want to have gotten 30.
You want to do the whole thing.
And just keep saying to yourself, I'll quit 30 days.
Right.
Let me just get to that 30 days.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Then we'll decide whether this is worth time.
And then by 30 days,
It will be.
you're not going to want to quit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and New Year's resolutions too. People don't normally say, "Gee, I'm going to every day add this to my diet or take this out." They go, "I'm going to lose 30 pounds." Like they just start with the goal. And the goal of this is really the habit every day. So that's sort
Right.
of an easy, in a sense, goal to attain because you could just do it one day at a time.
Right. So if you say a drawing a day, January 1st you do a drawing a day, then you've reached that goal really, and then now
Exactly.
let's try it again for the next day.
Exactly.
I think that's a good point about New Year's resolutions being unachievable, or they're about the end result rather than about the process. So the process is, my process isn't when I go to the dentist I want to have a perfect checkup. It's no, I brush my teeth every day.
Right.
And I brush
Right.
my teeth without thinking about it. It's just something that I do. And I think that to me was how I got better at drawing, which with me it was actually lunch. Every time I would go out at lunch, in the office, I would say, all right, well, I have whatever, 45 minutes for lunch. I'm just going to buy a sandwich and go to the park and draw whatever's sitting in front of me.
Right.
And it was just like, that's just the thing I do.
And that's it. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything. Just you can
A
draw what's
garbage
right in
can
front of
or
you.
a tree, whatever, yeah.
Yep.
It didn't
Yep.
matter, but the main thing was, and it wasn't even for a goal. It was just like, it'll be a nicer lunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The lunches have eaten some mediocre $6 tuna sandwich.
Yeah,
while
you
I've done a
enjoy
drawing.
yourself
Yeah.
while you're eating it.
Yeah, and I look back
Yeah.
on those drawings like a decade later or longer, and I say, I could see what I was doing. Like it was. I'm really glad that I did it.
Yeah.
I look. Future me was happy.
He's glad that you did it.
Yeah.
And the other thing too that I want to say is that drawing is you're using your muscles. There's a muscle memory. It's a training. It's not learning to draw. It's you training yourself to draw. And the practice of it is really the main thing. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Picasso. He said, "The important thing is to do. That's it. That's all. It doesn't even matter." And so all this talk about should I keep going, should I not, just do it a little bit every day.
Right.
And try to just focus on enjoying the doing of it. And that's it. And then the rest takes care of itself.
I say to people, it's called a drawing, not a have drawn, right?
Yes.
It's like the process
Yes,
of drawing.
it's an active
That's
thing.
the thing. It's like that's the nice thing is that reminder of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. So get a habit. Start now.
That's it.
Done.